Let's talk about something that sounds almost impossible. Imagine being born the size of a jelly bean, totally defenseless, and then having to build your entire immune system from scratch while you're already out in the world. It sounds crazy, right? Well, that's exactly what marsupials do, and today we're going to figure out how. So, this is the big question, the absolute heart of the mystery. You've got this tiny, underdeveloped newborn kangaroo or opossum. It has to make this heroic crawl into its mother's pouch, which, let's be clear, is not a sterile environment, and then somehow learn to fight off every germ imaginable. How does it even stand a chance?
To really get it, let's put things in perspective. For mammals like us, we're called eutherians. We get this huge head start. We develop inside a nice, safe, sterile womb. Our immune system is already under construction before we're born. But marsupials, they're playing a totally different ballgame. They're thrown into a germ-filled pouch when they're barely developed. And crucially, they have no mature immune tissues to speak of. None.
And this is the absolute kicker. They are born, for all intents and purposes, immunologically defenseless. The whole complex, amazing machine that is the immune system has to be built piece by piece after they're born, right there in the pouch. It's a massive evolutionary puzzle. So, here's our game plan for unpacking this incredible survival story. First, we'll look at what makes this a paradox. Then we'll dive into this idea of an immune system relay race. We'll see how the liver gives them a head start before the bone marrow takes over for the long haul. We'll also touch on what scientists still don't know and wrap up with why all of this really matters.
All right, Section 1, the marsupial paradox. This is all about being born defenseless in a world that is anything but. Now, to really understand how they pull this off, there's one key term we've got to know. Hematopoiesis. I know, it's a mouthful, but all it means is the process of making new blood cells, and that includes everything, from red blood cells carrying oxygen to that huge army of white blood cells that make up the immune system. For a newborn marsupial, getting this process started is literally life or death. So what's their secret weapon? Well, they have this brilliant strategy that you can think of as a relay race. One organ starts the job of making blood cells, and then it passes the baton to the next.
And this timeline shows that race in action. At birth, the starting gun fires, and the liver is the only runner on the track. It's making all the blood cells. But just 1 week in, as the baby's cartilage starts hardening into bone, the bone marrow gets ready to join the race. Then, for the next 2 months, you see this incredible handover. The bone marrow just ramps up and up, taking the baton from the liver, which then gets to retire.
So let's zoom in on that first runner, the one who gets this whole thing started. The liver.
The liver's role here is short-term, but it is absolutely crucial. At birth, it's the only factory in town. But it's smart. It doesn't try to build the entire immune army at once. Nope. It focuses on the bare essentials, making erythroblasts for red blood cells, you gotta have oxygen, and some early granulocytes, which are a basic kind of white blood cell for immediate frontline defense. Think of it as the body's emergency first responders. Okay, so while the liver is holding down the fort, the body is scrambling to build the permanent solution, the long-term factory, the bone marrow.
And just to appreciate the scale of this challenge, get this. A newborn marsupial doesn't even have real bones with hollow centers yet. It's all just soft cartilage. There is literally no place for bone marrow to even exist. The factory building has to be built before they can even start making things inside it.
And here's the step-by-step of how that factory gets built. First, that cartilage hardens into bone. That's called ossification. As that happens, a cavity opens up inside, creating the space they need. Then these tiny little islands of blood-making cells start popping up. As these islands grow, production just skyrockets, right as the liver is winding down. It is a perfectly timed, beautiful handover.
This whole thing is just an amazing feat of biological engineering. But, and this is what makes science so exciting, as much as we know, this field is still packed with mysteries. We are still figuring things out. Now, most of what we've learned comes from studying just a few key species, like the Virginian opossum and the Tamar wallaby. And scientists use all kinds of techniques, from just looking at tissues under a microscope to isolating the specific genes that control this whole process. But this research has also shown us how much we don't know. For example, scientists mostly just assume that the signaling molecules that direct all this traffic work the same way in marsupials as they do in us. But it hasn't been proven. We're still on the hunt for the exact genetic on switches.
And because there aren't many specialized lab tools for marsupials, it's really hard to study those first super immature cells to know for sure what they're doing.
So this all leads to the big question. Why should we care? Okay, it's cool for kangaroos, but why does it matter to us? Well, that brings us to the final, and maybe most important, part of all this. Because marsupials build their entire immune system right out in the open, they give us this incredible, unique window into how this system gets put together. It's like watching the construction of our own immunity in slow motion. It helps us understand the fundamental building blocks that evolution used to create the very defenses that keep all of us alive.
And the scientific paper this is all based on really says it best. Studying this process in marsupials, it provides direct insights into the evolution of our immune systems. And in that epic story, marsupials are a truly key chapter.
It just makes you wonder, doesn't it? When we look closely at these amazing survival strategies all around us in the animal kingdom, what other huge secrets about our own biology are just waiting for us to find them, hiding in plain sight?